And so this morning, we're going to listen once more to our plenary speaker, the Director, Publication Office, Philippine Normal University, Dr. Marie Paz E. Morales. And for those who are joining us just now, may I once again present to you our resource person. Dr. Marie Paz E. Morales is a full Professor 6 at the Philippine Normal University. She is the director of the publication office that manages 3 journals. She also serves as the editor-in-chief of 2 ASEAN Citation Index journals in the Philippines. And these are the Normalites and the Journal of Educational and Human Resource Development. Recently, she received the Research Citation Award from the Philippine Normal University. She has been confirmed a regular member of the National Research Council of the Philippines and a recipient of the NRCP Achievement Award in 2019 for Division 1, Governmental, Educational, and International Policies. She is also the current chair of the said division. Her research interests focus on science education, cultural studies in science education, indigenous knowledge, STEAM, TPAC, gender education, and participatory action research. She has and is engaging in different research configurations, including institutional, national, and international collaborations. She is also a PhD paper reader and evaluator of the University of Canterbury, New Zealand. Ladies and gentlemen, our dear viewers and participants, it is once again my pleasure and pride to present to you our plenary speaker for today, none other than Dr. Marie Paz E. Morales.
Good morning po. Good morning ulit, Ma'am Rebecca. It's nice to see you again. Okay, so thank you very much for the kind introduction. So a pleasant day to everyone. For those of you who have attended yesterday's sessions, congratulations. This is second day, and I hope that everyone had a lot of information learning yesterday. Again, good morning. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. I would say that today's presentation is practically a continuation of what we had yesterday. After opportunities for research, the next questions would be, where do we venture and how do we disseminate our research results? So for our sharing for today, this is all about journal publication options and pointers for teachers. Let me share my slide. Okay, so let's start off with what we left off yesterday. So these were our insights yesterday. We have to know research to be able to sustain research for generation of knowledge. Okay, this will be a way to still attain the original goals or set goals and outcomes. It is an opportunity for us to inform new policies and standards. This is teaching, learning, and investigation. And it's also an opportunity for us to inform online and remote teaching and learning practices. So for today, we'll have the following. We'll start off with the Agenda 2030. That would be about quality education through teacher quality. So when we say teacher quality, we'll be taking a look at reflective practitioners. And under that, we can probably discuss interpretive framework of research and explicating constructivist and interpretive research. And then finally, we go on with the details of research dissemination. So the research dissemination, I will be sharing with you some pointers on publication and other media where we disseminate our research results. Okay. So this will be our major areas of concern for today. So let's start off with Agenda 2030. I know that you are very familiar with this. This is themed as transforming our world, and 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development with Sustainable Development Goals, or what they practically call SDGs. This was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015. It's actually a strategic plan of all the member states to build a better world with no one left behind. In fact, the concept of education for sustainable development is at the center of the 2030 agenda. Now, every aspect of education, public awareness and training, from early childhood through higher tertiary education and on to continuing professional development and awareness campaigns, contribute to this global ESD efforts to create a more sustainable world. Particularly, if you talk about education 4. Quality education, so that's under SDG 4, it's quality education. This is stated as ensuring inclusivity, quality education, and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. This is the goal on education within 2030 agenda. As we can see, education is consistently recognized as a crucial element for the achievement of all the sustainable development goals. And recognizing such importance, Education 2030 was globally accepted as the World Education Forum in Incheon, Republic of Korea in 2015 of May of 2015, before the SDGs were formally adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in September of the same year. Now, the Global Education 2030 Agenda does not only acknowledge the need for quality education, but specifically it mentions the need for qualified teachers in teaching for future uncertainty. So we emphasize here the need for teachers. It is within this light that we act upon and be part of SDG 4. Again, SDG 4 is all about quality education. And we start so by doing and becoming reflective practitioners. This is this is where we can probably contribute, and we can contribute by starting documenting all our practices. So how do we become reflective practitioners? So being reflective practitioner is believed by many researchers to be our passport to teacher quality. In documenting our practices, we can probably follow two models. The models are that of Barton's and that of Gibbs. If you would notice, there are three stages for that of Barton, and this includes the what, the so what, and the now what. So the what describes the situation, then you explore the situation, and then how can the new learning be translated into practice. Basically, Gibbs' model emphasizes the same constructs. However, the model includes more phases than that of Barton's. So we have described the situation, what were the thinking and feeling, what were you thinking and feeling, the initial evaluation, and then the analysis, conclusion, and then the action plan. So in both models, we highlight four major processes. These processes are reflect, we start with observe, then we act, then we plan, and then we reflect. On the other side of the slide, or on the right side of the slide, you would notice a continuous process of observing, acting, planning, and reflecting. So these are the processes that we can embed within both models. Doing so will eventually help us establish being teacher researchers, which many research would claim to be a track towards teacher quality. So again, it's plan, act, observe, reflect. This traverses the worldviews of Creswell, actually. So Creswell presented the four worldviews or the four paradigms. We're very familiar with the positivist and the post-positivist. And then we are traversing from the post-positivist to interpretivist and constructivist. Then we move on to pragmatist and transformative. So, and then that happens within Creswell's worldview. If we take a look at the four worldviews, we are emphasizing two things. One is most of us are um, traversing positivist towards constructivist. Within the positivist, we can probably have amendments and we go on to post-positivist. So ano ba ang sinasabi ko, di ba? Post-positivist and positivist means determination, reductionism, and deductive theory or theory verification. We usually emphasize here the quantitative research designs that we are familiar of, descriptive design, experimental, and so on. Here in positivist, we highlight that the research is a standalone process, which means that the research is independent of the researcher. We usually have to control everything. But the post-positivist would claim that the researcher does have some influence on research. And so from post-positivist, we try to traverse the track of the interpretivist. For the interpretivist, we try to take a look at multiple realities and we try to understand the phenomenon. We wanted social historical construction and multiple participant meanings. But if we try to move deeper and try to source everything from what our participants are telling us, try to create knowledge out of the multiple realities shared with us by our participants, then we try to move from interpretivist to constructivist. So that's how we move from the positivist to the constructivist. We have another story for pragmatist and the transformative. But then, what I was mentioning a while ago as the four basic processes that we embed in both models, Morton and Gibbs, which are observe, plan, act, and reflect, are basically the constructs of or the processes of what you call action research. Yeah. Action research had a separate timeline compared to all the different qualitative and quantitative designs. But more often than not, most researchers would claim that action research leans towards the qualitative aspect. Mas lamang siya sa interpretivist at saka constructivist, not on the positivist and post-positivist paradigms. Okay? So, Pine in 2009 defined action research as more than a method. It's not basically a method. They consider this as a paradigm, it's an approach, or it's a research model. Now, how do we go about AR? When we go about AR, we have to have some ideas. So something like, how would we generate some ideas? Probably you can ask yourself, what wakes you up at night? Okay, ano bang mga nakikita niyong problema na hindi kayo mapatulog ng gabi? Diba? Then, ask again, what are your intended actions so that you can address those things that wakes you up at night. So that would be under plan and act. Okay? And what do you envision from what you have gathered? So that would be reflect. So meaning we can take a look at how we go about action research as observations and ideas. We have to plan and act, and then we have to reflect. In 1982, Grundy proposed the modes of AR. So there are basically three modes of AR. One of them would be technical, the other is practical, and the third one is emancipatory. So if you are a teacher, most of us here are teachers, and based on our readings, we have seen a specific teaching strategy to be good for our subject. we can probably adopt that teaching strategy and then implement it in our class. Then we are called teachers as consumers and supporters of an innovation. So we're trying to advocate technical action research. For practical action research, something was co-designed by you and probably a partner, okay? And then you go on implementing the innovation, and then you are implementing practical action research. But if you wanted drastic changes, let's say, for example, you wanted uh, large amount of change in school policy. So you try to take a look at the entire school setting in coming up with innovations and advocacies. Then you are talking about emancipatory action research. So those are the modes of AR according to Grundy in 1982. When we design AR, we usually follow these simple steps by Mills in 2000. We identify an area of focus, collect data, analyze and interpret data, and then we develop a plan. But we can have some other ways of generating knowledge starting from different sources. For example, we can start from collected data. From there, we can identify an area of focus and then move on with the cycle. Or we can start with analyses and interpretations of data. So from there, we can collect other sets of data. And from the collected other sets of data, we can identify our area of focus. And then we move on with our research cycle or action research cycle. When we design AR, again, we follow these simple steps. As mentioned a while ago, these simple steps are the major or basic processes when we try to implement either of the two models presented for us to become reflective practitioners and to inform teacher quality. Okay, so when we design AR, we plan. So the question for that would be, how did we design it? So these are about defining standards, describing plan for instruction. Then we act. So let's try it. How do we carry out that plan? Okay, we observe. How was it? We observe the results, examine evidences of improvement, and then finally we discuss how can we sustain it. So how is instructional planning changed? How have these changes impact student learning? So that's what we call the plan, act, observe, and discuss. So that's for designing action research. I have discussed this to you so that when you would want something which can be publishable, you can always go back and take a look at your class and design and come up with action research. So when you are already ready with your generated knowledge drawn from the implemented action research that you have conducted, then we can start disseminating your research results. Now, how would we disseminate our research results? So in this section of my presentation, I'll be discussing to you some pointers under research reporting, which are self-prep, journal search for those of you who would want to publish in journals, basic research writing and research report versus article format, and key parts of an article. Then after that, I am going to share with you also some media on how we can share and media on where we can share our research results. Okay. So for self-preparation, as a writer, as an author of journal articles, what I can share with you are some of my practices and some of my mantra talaga, ano? Some of my, how do you call this one? Routines, okay? And experiences. I usually do this one. I first check if I am able to, within this time frame, be able to write a particular article, okay? So the first item there is I like routine. When we say I like routine, what I do is I do not leave work for 2 days probably and then sit the whole day for 2 days writing my article. I don't do that. Okay? I only write my articles part by part. So I do it every day. Okay. So I wake up wee hours in the morning, and I usually allot about an hour or two for me to write less than a paragraph, or kung maganda gising ko, a paragraph. Okay? So a paragraph a day, for 30 days, I'll be able to complete my entire article. So that's it. I do not attempt to write my article in a day. Okay? It takes me about a month to be able to complete my article. I like routine. So I do that every day. Okay? Hindi lalagpas ang isang araw na hindi ako susulat. So dapat ganon. So for you, probably you can have a specific time of the day for you to write. So kayo na ang pumili kung anong oras. Ano? So kanya-kanya tayong comfortable time frame. Okay? I like incremental achievements. So this is connected to the first item. So when we say I like incremental achievements, it would be okay for me if I am able to write a paragraph or less than a paragraph in a day. That's already an achievement for me. Okay? Small achievements, they say, lead to bigger goals. So, dun na ako sa bigger goals kapag marami ng small achievements or small steps. Okay? I can focus. So, that's the third item. Let's say, for example, you have a research report. For example, those of you who have finished their thesis or dissertation, you have voluminous data, you have a lot of words included in your manuscript. And so your manuscript runs from 100 to 200 to even 300 pages, okay? But then journal writing only requires you a number of words. So for example, in our journal, the journal that I manage, we only accept 6,000 word manuscript. This means that it would be running from 10 to 15 pages only. So if I am going to convert my thesis or my dissertation to a 15-page paper, I have to be mindful. Okay, mindful meaning I know what are the essential parts which I need to include. Okay. Most of us are mindful. Marami tayong alam kasi nga nagre-research tayo, di ba? But from what we have gathered, probably we are able to identify which are essential. Okay, so I can focus. The next item, I accept criticisms positively. So here, it would be best if all comments and suggestions by peers, reviewers, editors will be taken as positive criticisms, meaning they are opportunities for learning. Okay? Hindi dapat tayo umiiyak kapag nakaka-receive ng napakaraming comments. Okay. My very first Scopus Index publication, I submitted a 25-page paper. I have received, after the peer review process, I have received 35 comments, major comments. So just imagine, mas marami pa yung comments kaysa yung number of pages, di ba? So I took it one at a time, and I just bear in mind that each of the comments, while I address each of the comments, it's also a learning opportunity for me. Okay? I have good eyes for details and good mind for big ideas. This has to be coming together. Okay? Usually editors would like to see both things. You have big ideas, meaning you have a very big contribution for the journal, and you have good eyes for details, meaning your submitted manuscript is free from grammatical errors, mechanics errors, typographical errors, and all other small errors. Okay, reading when we have this errors is very difficult. So reviewers would not attempt to read your paper if they are replete with grammatical errors. Okay, so make sure that you submit a well-written paper. And finally, I have self-discipline and I am motivated. So you can see the one of the images in this slide. Please do not follow the one under X. Okay? Pagka kayo ay nag-alarm, walang snooze-snooze, diba? Pag 6:30, gising na agad, 6:30. Okay? Pag hindi kayo magising, bili kayo nito. Ayan. I hope this helps you. There. Okay? Paggising nyo, siguro motivated na kayong sumulat, no? Okay. Next is self-preparation. So this is during the time that you're already writing. So the thing is, you have to find a me time. It's the research time or writing time, writing activities time. you have to find a comfortable place. Okay, make sure that you follow and observe social distancing from your refrigerator. Okay, if you cannot, then you can wear your face mask so that you will not be motivated to eat and eat and eat. Eating a lot makes you sleepy and you cannot write well. So have a good meal, low carb, low sugar, and good diet. And I also believe that having good breaks, physical activities before writing and in between writing is a very good practice. Physical activities, according to research, stimulate cognitive activities as well, or your cognition. So it makes you able to write good sentences. Okay, so now let's take how we would search journals. Now, in the world of publication, the usual practice for most authors would be to look for target journals first before they even attempt to write the articles. Why? Journals do have different author guidelines. So, kanya-kanyang journal, kanya-kanyang instructions to authors yan. Kanya-kanyang author guidelines. So, ibig sabihin, kanya-kanya silang standards. For example, I have written a manuscript which runs for 8,000 words. And then after I wrote the manuscript, that's the only time that I searched for a journal. And the journal which I was able to choose because it matches the focus of my study requires the author to submit manuscript only equivalent to 6,000 words. So, edi mega revision na naman ako, di ba? So, baliktarin natin yung process. We start looking for the journal before we start writing. Okay? So, what are the things that we need to look for when we are looking for target journals? One, you have to check the focus and scope. Make sure that the focus and scope of your manuscript matches that of the journal. Because if not, that's the very first thing that makes the editor reject your paper. So parang ano yan, outright rejection. Okay? Check also the publication frequency of the journal or the target journal. Is it once a year, twice a year, etc.? Okay, this will give you an idea if you would want to publish in such journals. O kung once a year lang kasi, chances of being published ay medyo mababa kumpara sa quarterly or semi-annual. Okay? Also, for promotion purposes, you have to check the journal type. Okay? Is it TRED recognized? Is it Scopus indexed? Or is it ISI listed? Or is it ASEAN Citation Index, part of the ASEAN Citation Index database? Okay? And then after checking all this, go on and read the author guidelines, so specifically the number of words and the format and parts. Okay? This is a PASOK advisory for those of you who are attempting to be promoted to professorial levels. Make sure that your publications are in journals which are indexed in the following. Okay? SSCI, NLM, ESCI, etc. Okay, there. So our journal is the Normal Light. So you can check our website later on. This is an open access journal, meaning even if you don't register, you can read the publications here, and you can even download the publications. It's an ACI index journal, and it's also CHED accredited journal incubation. We have other journals, the AFERGE and the Aston journal. So for those of you who intend to publish, you can check our journals. Okay. So one request, can you please check your Facebook and look for our Facebook page, and then please like. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, in searching for journals, these are some questions you can bear in mind and ask yourselves for you to be able to determine if the target journal is a reputable journal or not. Okay, so some people would call the non-reputable journals as predatory journals. So first, does the journal charge excessive fees for publication? Pag may bayad na malaki, mag-isip-isip muna, di ba? Baka scam lang yan, predatory. Okay? Is the scholarship peer-reviewed? So it depends on the advertisement and the announcements of the journal. I can show you later on a sample of which. Have your colleagues published with the journal? Okay, so ask some of your colleagues who are already published. Okay, is the journal included in a reputable index? I have shown you a while ago the different indexing. And does the journal clearly outline its publishing process? Okay, so here is a sample email I usually receive. You can see there, it's Thomson Reuters Researcher ID Index Journal, sabi nung email, ano. May impact factor daw siya na 4.3. But the important dates are presented here as paper submission is, I think, March 20, 2017. And it would be published on March 22, 2017. So that gives them 2 days. Okay, after my submission, 2 days, then it's published online. Okay, so that means if you go back, okay, number 2 item is the scholarship peer reviewed. Okay, peer review, the minimum number of weeks for a peer review is 4 weeks. Okay, and usually it takes about 6 months, the average. Okay, so for 2 days, item number 2 is not satisfied, meaning this is not a very good target journal. Next, there is a fee, as you can see here. Okay, it's not too excessive, but then it's excessive if we try to take a look at the peer review process. Wala kasing peer review pero pinagbabayad kayo ng malaki, di ba? Okay. Now, how do we check if the journals are indexed in particular indexing which are acceptable by education agencies in the Philippines? You can check this website. Okay, it leads you to some videos. The videos would inform you how you are going to check the indexing in ISI, Scopus, or Simago index journals. You can also check simagojr.com. Okay, you can just type or key in the title of the journal, and then you can see there, if it's not found, then it's not indexed there. If it's found, then it's a good journal. You can also use Scopus. You can register. It's a free website. Registration is free also. Okay, and then from there, you can check the Scopus content. You can download the content and then look for journals which will entice you. Okay, at least sigurado kayo na yung journal na yon ay Scopus index. Okay, there. So in publication, hindi lang sa research, ano, pati sa publication, meron din tayong tinatawag na ethics. Okay, but in general, we talk about 4 major things when we talk about ethical principles. Respect for persons, beneficence, meaning we have to maximize benefits by promoting the well-being of our participants and ourselves as well. Justice, there has to be no risk or very minimal risk to both researchers and participants. Okay, so minimizing risk is non-maleficence there. In the publication, in the normal lights, we have publication ethics defined here in one of the menus. So you can check and you can read through. Okay. Now, since the publication ethics is a lengthy document, I summarized it using author's 7 sins. I hope that you will not commit any of these sins. Okay. Mas konti ito kaysa sa 10 commandments. So one is carelessness. So one example would be citation bias. Kunwari, meron kayong kinuha sa isang article and then you have not cited. Okay. The probable punishment will be a letter from the editor telling you to make the citation. Redundant publication. Okay, you have already published, let's say, one part of your thesis or dissertation, and then later on, you have this motivation to write. So you made use again of the tables that you have used in the originally published article, and then you write another manuscript. That's what you call redundant publication. Okay. What you can do is you have to report that the table is already part of one publication. Kapag hindi kasi ginawa yon, the probable punishment would be rejection of the manuscript or copyright infringement, okay, which may bring not so good news to your jobs. Okay? Unfair authorship. So this is failure to include eligible authors. Yung mga kasamahan ninyo, nagsulat pala, tapos hindi nyo isinama, di ba? O, kailangan, so umpisa pa lang ng pagsusulat, alam na ng bawat isa kung sino ang dapat kasama at sino ang dapat hindi. Okay. Ito ang isang example. Let's say, I am a physics teacher. I am a physics major actually. So, as you have heard Ma'am Becky a while ago, I go for STEAM, science, technology, engineering, agriculture, arts, mathematics, research. Okay, STEAM education research. Meaning, if I write an article on STEAM education, then editors would be expecting my co-authors to be within the STEAM field. Siguro may technology dyan, siguro may engineer dyan, siguro meron dyang agriculturist, kung hindi namin isasama si arts, siguro mathematics meron din, di ba? Pero kunwari, mayroon kaming sinamang language person, di ba? So will the editor be considering him or her as our co-author? Hindi maniwala si editor, no? Kasi wala siya sa field ng focus ng manuscript. Okay? So, we can talk to our colleague and explain to him or her that these are the terms of reference when you come with us as part of the number of authors for this article. We are requesting you to edit our manuscript and so we can acknowledge you in the manuscript. Okay? So mga ganong kailangan sa simula pa lang maliwanag. Yeah. The next two items are actually not in the publication, but I still included them because these are parts of ethics in research. We do this while we are conducting the research. But when we are in the publication, editors would be somehow requiring you a copy of ethical approval of conflict of interest and human-animal subjects. Okay, so just be ready with the documents. Okay, then we have plagiarism and other fraud such as fabrication of or falsification of data. Okay, so these are the 7 C's. Please take note of them. There. Okay, so we are actually still on the planning process. Totoo lang, ang pagsusulat, mas marami ang planning kaysa sa writing. Okay? When we start our writing process, we need to read a lot. Okay, so we have to read and we have to source our readings from major databases. That's the time that we can have our research literature. Okay, so why do we need to research again? It's because of the fact that, let's say for example, I wanted to watch a Korean drama. Di ba nagre-research ako? I would want to know information about the Manila Bay, white sand. I would need to read. Okay? I want to drink vitamins. So, saan ba ako magdidepende? Sa mga pictures ng mga pogi o sa labels? And I need to read some labels, okay? If I am diagnosed with a disease, I am not familiar with 004 rectomy. I am a physics teacher, okay? So, I would have to check the Google and read and read and read. So, basically, it's reading, okay? Research, reading. So we need to research and read because we wanted to update ourselves in a particular specialty or field. We wanted to find a solution probably because we are diagnosed with something. We want to know the cause. Bakit ako ganito? Bakit ako ganyan? Diba? We have to understand certain fundamental aspects such as the one mentioned a while ago or pathophysiology, etc. Okay? Or probably we want to get an idea for carrying out a research work. or there's an article assigned to us to read, to find support of one's views, and to help provide literature in one's own field of specialization. But on a broader sense, we need research because we want it to be systematic and logical. We wanted to acquire knowledge-based information because we wanted to make informed decisions. Okay, we wanted to be critical and scientifically literate citizens, and finally, we wanted to contribute to the knowledge-based economic growth of the country. Okay. So that's the reason why we read. And when we read, we do two things: we search and then we read. When we search, we need two things: we have to be miners of articles, and we have to do the database. Okay. When we read, we have to follow these steps. We have to skim the entire article, do the vocabulary reading, by comprehension section by section, and do reflections and criticisms. When we mine articles, we have to be mindful, okay, mine articles, we have to be mindful of where we source our articles. The one on the left are databases which are paid. So may bayad. Dahil may bayad, ang pwede natin gawin kung wala tayong access, call a friend. Okay? So when we call a friend, make sure that he or she is enrolled in a university that has access to all of this. Okay? Or we can do or what we can do is to search online databases which are open access or free access. So these are Google Scholar, Google or Yahoo, meta search engines, web portals, ResearchGates, and personal websites or pages of authors. These are some of the database which opened their access due to the recent pandemic. Okay, so medyo bumait sila kasi nga marami ang gustong mag-research, kaya lang mahirap dahil nga walang face-to-face. So they opened it for free. Okay, so please check there. Here's another one, Cambridge Commons. Okay, and we have EBSCO Faculty Select. Our portal is open to you. You can search. Okay, this is our website. Yeah. And within the website, you can check our resources. We have the online journal systems. All the 3 journals that I have presented a while ago are open access, so you can download as many articles as you want. We also have the open access online commons, but the online commons for PNU students are not accessible, okay, unless you are enrolled in PNU. We also have a Facebook page, and the page also provides some information on some tips on how to publish. Okay, so after searching, you would encounter a lot of reading materials. One of the reading materials probably that you have searched is a journal article. And a journal article would have a title page which would look like this one. Okay, so we have a lot of information on this title page. And this would include the journal title, the authors and affiliation, the volume, issue, publication year, etc., page, of course, the article title, and the authors and affiliation. Okay. Now, each journal would have a different format or layout for its title page. So this one is Asia Pacific Education Researcher. Does have a different way of presenting its title page and the information in the title page. It has a DOI. DOI it stands for Direct Object Identifier or Digital Object Identifier. Now this one, if you key in all these numbers in Google, it will direct you, to the article. Okay? Hindi na siya dadaan dun sa journal. This is another one. Okay, this is by International Journal of Research Studies in Education. Has a different format also. Chan Joffrey is my advisee. Okay. He has an envelope because he is considered as a corresponding author. A corresponding author is one of the authors who communicates to the editor. Okay, not all of you as authors of a particular manuscript can communicate to the editor. Only one, who is known as a corresponding author. The arrangement would tell us that since Geoffrey Chan is listed first and I second, Geoffrey Chan is our first author, okay, or the lead author. Okay, we have a policy in the university that our advisees will be serving as the first authors and we as advisors as co-authors. Okay, so that defines, and that is the reason why this is the arrangement for this article. Okay, so Q&A muna tayo. You can key in your answers in the chat box. Okay, so this is my first question. Which occurs first in a scientific journal article after the title page? So after the title page, what is the next part of the journal article? So please key in or encode your answers in the chat box. Okay, tatanong ko sana any answers, kaya lang napindot ko yung sagot. Sorry. Okay, so it's abstract. Let's go on to the second question. Where can we read the rationale of the study? Okay, can you please key in your answers in the chat box? Okay, where can we read the rationale of the study? Okay, so we have one response from Sir Alvin. That's introduction. Okay, thank you very much. Marami. Maylene, Sir Michael. Okay, introduction. Thank you very much. Next, we have, where can we find the description of instruments used?
Methodology.
Ayun, may sumagot.
Methodology.
Methodology. Okay, thank you very much. Next question we have, where can we read the limitations of the study? Where do you think can we read the limitations of the study? Okay, any answers? Sorry, napindot ko ulit. It's in the recommendation section. Okay. So in article writing, we often write our limitations of the study in the recommendation section. Our limitations are usually sourced from methods, and when we write them as part of the recommendation section, we also try to include ways on how to address these limitations for study replications. This is the final question. Which cannot be determined from a reference list citation? Is it the title of the journal, the title of the journal article, number of pages in the journal, or number of pages in the journal article? Any response? Okay, any response? Okay, we have responses here. Thank you very much. It's number 3, number of pages in the journal. So what we only have are a number of pages or pages in the journal article. So that would mean the page range, okay? And so moving forward, how do we do our database? So one specific learning I had, or yes, I had when I was writing my very first article. I wrote my first article in 2012. Okay. The frustration I had was on writing my references. This is because it took me about 3 weeks to write my entire manuscript. But then when I am already in the reference list, I have to look for all the articles again because they are nawawala na lahat, di ba? Okay. I need to go back to all the websites and search again for this article. So that's a lesson learned, okay? So this time, after mining the articles, I do the database right away. So I do this particular process either offline or online. So offline, I use Microsoft Word, the reference, and online, since BibMe is an open source citation machine. All these are actually open source, but if you are with DepEd, you are able to access the G Suite, and EasyBib is part of that. Okay, so yun pwede niyong gamitin. So this is BibMe. Okay, this is EasyBib. It's part of G Suite, so it would be easy for you because you can access that. Oh yes, you can use Mendeley for those of you who also have access to EndNote. Maganda rin yun, no? So we have a lot of online databases. Or you can use MS Word kung ayaw nyo ng online. Okay, so go to References, go to Insert Citation, and add a new source. So let's say, for example, this one was presented to you a while ago. We can key in all the data from this title page, and then it would look like this one. The journal type, the author, the title, the journal title, the year, and the page range. Okay, so click OK, and then you are brought here, and then you can click on the bibliography. The drop-down menu comes out, and click on Insert Bibliography. Then click Close. That would mean, charan, ayan na po. Okay, ito yung citation, in-text citation, at ito yung sa reference list. Yeah. Okay, so that would be for MS Word. Yeah. Now, how do we read what we have searched? Paano magbasa? Diba? When we read, we usually have 4 ways. The first thing to do is to skim the entire article. When you skim the entire article, you basically need a synopsis of the article, and that would be found in the abstract. Okay, then we do vocabulary reading. When you say vocabulary reading, most articles which we source from journals are very difficult to read. It's because they have a lot of difficult words. So what we can do is to write the meaning of the difficult words on the side so that it would not be very difficult for us each time that we encounter that difficult word. Hindi tayo hihinto para tumingin sa thesaurus, tapos babalik ulit. Mahirap yon kasi marami kang babalikang paragraphs para maintindihan mo ulit yung flow, di ba? Yan. So una, skim reading, and then you do vocabulary reading, lahat ng mahihirap na words, kunin niyo yung meaning. And then you do reading by comprehension, section by section. So what do I mean by that? When you are writing, let's say, your method section, you will not be reading research articles. You will not be reading introduction sections of research articles. More often, you would be referring to the method section of the article since you are reading or you are writing your method section. Okay, so that's what I mean. It's reading by comprehension, section by section. You have to choose a particular section of the article because that matches the section that you are writing at the moment. Okay, and so you do reflections and criticisms. While you are reading and understanding what the manuscript is telling you, bear in mind all the time this question. What has this got to do with my research? Anong connect nito sa aking research? Ganun lagi. And then the connect should be written on the manuscript, I mean the article that you are reading as side notes. Okay? Para hindi mawala. Yeah. So that will be our ways and means on reading research articles. This is an example of an abstract. I sourced this from one of my papers. You would notice there are always 4 parts of an abstract. Okay? If the abstract only contains yellow, lahat objectives, no? Hindi siya abstract. Okay? Hindi siya magandang abstract. So when you are writing your abstract, make sure that you have these 4 parts. Okay? You have objective and purpose, your methods, your products and results, and then your conclusions and recommendations. Okay. Journals would require you a specific number of words for abstract. Usually, journals would love to have 150 words only. Okay, so kailangan matipid kayo, no? Be very direct, straightforward when you are trying to write any statement. Okay, don't be very verbose. So when you search for articles, you have to check the title and the keywords. If they are related to your study, then you can check the abstract. I've mentioned to you that there are supposedly 4 parts of the abstract. If you have read clear-cut goals for the research and these are related to your manuscript or your intended research, then you go on reading the entire article following the other ways: vocabulary, by section, and then reflection and criticism. If not, then you can store or yes, you can probably have a different storage for those other articles kasi baka pwede silang magamit later on. Okay? So again, these are the ways and means of reading. And if we are done, so we can start with writing our report. Okay. Okay. So for this, we have me as a writer. So as a writer, you spend some portion of your time in all these activities. Research, paper, writing grant applications, etc. And this is the research cycle if you are taking a look at you as a researcher. So you start with pre-award, you write the proposal, you implement, you do the process, and then you publish. And then after publishing, there has to be an impact. Okay? So going further, who are you as a writer? Are you a driver, a patchworker, a grant planner, or an architect? So these are the equivalent descriptions of the 4 personalities. Okay, so who are you? Me, I can say I am a grant planner and architect. So you would notice later on that when I write, I do them in a way that I prepare first all the structures before I start writing. These are the differences of the 3: the journal article, research report, and technical reports. Technical reports are, their content is dependent on the activity that we are documenting. Okay, so if you are documenting a festivity, we have a different format. Okay, but for a research report and a journal article, the first difference is the number of words. We have an unlimited number of pages and words for a research report, but not in journal article. Okay, all the blue portions here, as you can see, are optional portions of journal articles, which are required parts of a research report. A cover letter is usually required, okay, for a journal article. It's a way to communicate with the editor. These are the articles that are accepted by journals. You have papers, this we are accustomed to submitting one, letters, research notes, supplemental articles or data, review articles, and miniature articles. Okay. And in all those, when we write our papers, we follow what you call not the IMRAD format. I am discussing this not as a format, but I am discussing this as a principle. Okay. So when you say IMRAD, we try to write the introduction because we wanted to share to our readers the why. Okay. Why do we did this as our research? Why are we writing this as our research? In telling us the why, we can also present the how. How did we do this, implement this, and so on. So the methods. What happened when we implemented? So we try to discuss the what. And what is the meaning of this? All this data generated. So we discuss the so what. So IMRAD is not only a format, it can be taken as a principle, okay, or a framework. Now, these are the different parts of the different journal articles I have presented a while ago. So we're accustomed to this one: abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, conclusion, recommendation, and references. Okay, these are the stages in writing our manuscript. Okay, we have to set the framework if you are an architect, and then you write the first draft. You use computer apps to check. Okay, and then you have to ask your co-authors to read until you have an excellent draft. That's the time that you submit. Okay. So, for example, I usually start with an article title. So the article title will normally be a working title for me. Okay, has to be short, reflective of the problem and the main variables of the study. No, free of value judgment. Hindi pwede yung the positive impact of online learning because you are already making a judgment. It's positive. Okay, dapat ano tayo free of bias. Final article may be designed after you have written the entire manuscript. Okay, these are some sample titles from my papers. Some of them are active, examining, tracing, but some are not. Okay, this is a sample of how my working title transitioned to the final title. Yan. So ganito yung naging itsura niya after some time. No? So nag-iba yung focus ko nung ako yung nagsulat. Yan. This is the article structure. So you only need to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts, diba? You have the abstract, and these are the contents of the abstract, the introduction, the methods, results and discussions, recommendations, and conclusions. Please make sure that your articles and literature are within 2011 to 2021. That's a decade old. Lesser than that, ibig sabihin mas older kaysa sa 2011, medyo hindi na maganda. Okay? So, bear in mind, a decade old is better. Yeah. So, emphasizing the abstract, we need this part as I have presented a while ago. One introductory statement, but you can do away with that. You can go straight to the major goal. Your method should be complete. What design, instrument, participants, sampling procedure, data collection and analysis, your major findings, conclusions, and recommendations. Everything has to be in a 150-word format. Okay? So, ganun talaga, no? Kailangan masyadong matipid. For the introduction, you have 3 major parts. You need a background, so you can start with a global theme, and then you have the national focus, and then you go on to the local emphasis. Then your literature review should be presented thematically. Sources should be a 10-year gap or 1 decade gap, okay? Synthesis and research gaps. And then you can describe your study rationale. Here, you have to discuss your study significance and why is there a need to conduct the study. So those are the major parts of an introduction. Some writing tips has to be funnel shape. In one of our articles, there are only 3 paragraphs for the entire introduction. Okay, so 1, 2, and 3. The first paragraph is global in context. The second one is regional, ASEAN. And the third one is situated in the Philippines. Until you have on the lower portion, the focus of the study, which is basically action research. So some other tips for a manuscript equivalent to 15 pages, 2 to 3 pages for an introduction is good. Okay, that would be including the literature review. Okay, hindi pwedeng umabot ng 10 pages. Kung 15 pages yan, papaano pa yung ibang parts, diba? Sub-level headings are very good to attract readers because they give the readers a bird's eye view of the storyline. You have to be brief and you have to include a lot of citations. You have to be very mindful of the form and style of writing of the target journal. And narrations and stories must be clear as possible and no gaps. So those are some tips that I can share with you in writing the introduction. Since I am an architect and a planner and a grand planner when I write, I usually have a matrix, okay, before I start writing the entire thing. So how do I do this? Before we go on, some basic ideas. What are the basic parts of an introduction? Okay, na-discuss na natin yan. How do I organize that? Has to be funnel shape. What tense? It has to be present tense. And do I need citations? Yes, they are required. Okay. I also have here, you can get this from the organizers probably, some primary traits. So you can ask a critical friend BFF, critical friend, to rate your introduction. Okay. This is how I do, this is the major purpose of the purposes of the research and statement of the problem. Usually, we discuss the major goal and then the specific problems. And then we go on with our methods. Okay. In the methods section would have the following. You need a research design and the study context. And then you have participants, instruments, data collection, and data analysis. Okay. So how do we write the method section? So I'll give you one example. For example, we have here. My working title is Development and Validation of a Module in Physics. Okay. So I would have my objectives as follows. Design the instructional design of the module, develop the module, and validate the module. Okay. Now, what would be the corresponding research designs? Okay, I would only have one that would be under design and development research, but my instruments would vary depending on the objectives. Okay, and the participants would also vary depending on the objectives. Data collection would also be varying depending on the objectives and also with the document data analysis. So my point here is that I do this because I do not like or I do not want that my narratives, yung mga sinusulat ko na nakaparagraph, ay hindi niya makapture lahat. Kadalasan, kapag may natatanggap kaming article sa aming journals, kapag development and validation sila ng instrument or any instructional material, when they are in the participant section, they only concentrate on the experts. Okay? They forgot the physics teachers. They only concentrate on the survey, and they forgot all about their data collection during the document analysis and the interview. So that's what I don't like. Okay? And when your manuscripts are subjected to peer review, peer reviewers usually take a look at coherence. Kailangan, ito yung objective mo, ito dapat ang corresponding instrument niya, ito dapat ang corresponding data collection, and so on. Okay? So that's for some tips for writing the method section. So you can use this matrix if you want, and you can follow this flow for your narrative. Okay? So some key parts for our results and discussion. There are only two parts here. One would be it has to be coherent with the specific objectives. So if you would notice, I am always referring to the specific objectives, whether I'm writing the method section, the results and discussion, or the conclusions and recommendation. Okay? Now, each section may be sequenced as follows. You have an introductory statement about a subsection. Then you do the graphical or the tabular presentation of your data. Then you do the discussion. When you discuss, make sure that you present the data trends. You do not repeat all the numbers presented in the table. Tables are standalone. Ibig sabihin, kapag binasa ng isang reader yung table, kaya niyang i-interpret yon. Ang gusto niyong mangyari sa discussion, magbigay kayo ng explanation doon sa nai-interpret ni reader. Okay? Provide some insights from the findings, and you have to include literature citations for this. You also have to discuss some implications of these findings. So here is one example. Naalala niyo yung kanina, no? Working title and then the actual article title. This is the results and discussion section part of that article. Okay? So you would notice here that this is the results. This is part of the results. It's table 3. Okay? The title of the table is a comparison of the number of credit units, blah, blah, blah. This is a qualitative study, so you would only notice frequencies and percentages. Okay? Note, I have highlighted these parts there and this portion. Okay? Now, here is the corresponding discussion. Ito na yung discussion nung table na yon, diba? Makikita ninyo dun sa discussion, wala akong binabanggit na numero. Okay? Because as a good reader, you would notice these things. Okay? That the subject matter knowledge has the highest percentage in optic. Diba? Hindi kailangang i-discuss dito kasi kita nyo na yun dun sa table. What you can do is highlight all the things that may contribute to why is it highest. Okay, so I have underlined some key parts in the discussion section that would refer to explanations. Okay, we can also have, since it's a qualitative study, I made use of some observations and interviews. Okay, I can make use of them, the transcripts, as additional explanations. So I made use of them as verbatim responses. Ayan, ganito ko sila ginamit. But usually, I use this style for ethical consideration. So I place their names are pseudonyms. Okay. Bakit hindi ako gumamit ng student 1, teacher 2, teacher 1, etc.? Because it's not so personal. Ayoko nang nire-refer yung tao. Ako yun hindi ko alam sa iba. So others would be using participant 1, participant 2, etc. I would like to use names kasi nga parang very personal, diba? You are talking to a reader and then you are telling the reader, "Uy, close tayo ha. Alam mo ba si Jenny? Ang sabi niya ganito." Ganon. Ganon ang gusto kong mangyari sana. So I made use of some pseudonyms. Okay? There. Now, how do we write and present our results and discussion? So what kind of data or what kind of display would we want for our data? Okay, so probably this will help you decide whether you're going to do it narratively, do it graphically, do it tabular format. Okay. So kung amount of data nyo, less than 5 lang naman, di ba? The value of visualization is low, then you can have narrative. Okay, diretso na doon sa text, walang table, walang graph, walang figure, ganon. Pero kung ang visualization ay high, tapos ang dami nyong data, gumamit pa kayo ng napakaraming data, ay graph ang kailangan nyo doon. Pero kung ang gusto nyong mangyari, marami kayong data, at ang gusto nyong mangyari, makita ng readers, yung data mismo, ay di table ang kailangan nyo. Pero kung kailangan pareho, details at saka trend, ay di pareho nyong gamitin, tables and graphs. Okay? The way of presenting table is dependent on the artistic attribute of the author. Ano yun? Unique feature ni author yon, kanya-kanyang ano bang kakayahan, paano maging very artistic in the way you present your tables. Wala siyang rules. Basta ang mga rules lang ay this is supposed to be the format, etc. Specifically, if the journal is following APA style or Chicago style, Harvard style, ganun. Okay? So this is a way of writing para sa akin, this is how I write my results and discussion. Okay? Results should be clear and concise. Discussion should explore the significance of the results, and you should not be repeating the numbers in the discussion section. Okay? Usually, journals would require you to embed the tables and figures in the text, but some journals would have it in separate sections or separate pages. Okay? So, depending sa target journal yun. For quantitative research, we often have the combined results and discussion section. But for qualitative studies, we usually follow, ako gusto ko yung hiwalay yung findings sa discussion. Avoid excessive citations and discussion of published articles para naman hindi lumabas na ang dinidiscuss mo puro literature. Ang dinidiscuss mo dapat yung result mo, at yung literature, ang trabaho niya, confirm o negate yung iyong results. Okay? So you have to follow the standard of the journal. Kung APA ang sabi niya, you follow APA in the presentation of results. Okay. Again, since I'm a planner and an architect, so I usually make use of matrices. This is one of the matrices I use. I also ask my students to do the same. Going back to our example, di ba ito yung example natin kanina? We have the objectives, the data collection, the themes. Okay. Kung ang objective ko, design the instructional design, di dapat ang product ko, which will be my result, is an instructional design. So that will be my first theme. Develop the module, that's the next objective. So ano ang product nun? Di dapat develop module, diba? Validate the module. So ano ang product ng validate the module na objective? It has to be validation of the module. Okay? And then I go on filling in the table Okay, there. So you can make use of this table as a way of planning your results and discussion section. Okay, finally, this is the results and conclusions and recommendations section. The first paragraph, I only have 6 paragraphs. I usually do this in all my manuscripts. Okay, I find this very effective to editors. The conclusion section is where you profess and confess all the knowledge you generated in the study. So ito yung contribution mo as an author. Okay? So the first paragraph, I would have to remind my readers what the study is all about, what its major goal. And then I go on providing them the summary for objective 1, summary for objective 2, summary for objective 3, and then the findings, implication for objective 1, 2, or 3. Now, it depends on the way I write. Pwedeng pa-isa-isa. Objective 1 muna, objective 2, then objective 3. Or I weave them together. Then I have a concluding statement. Okay? The fifth paragraph would be about my limitations or the limitations of the study, which I usually source from the method section. I usually provide ways on how others who would replicate the study would address these limitations. The sixth paragraph is how I envision this research to be in the future. So that's the future direction of my research. Okay. So this is the conclusion and recommendation section. Okay. Of course, you have to have the reference list. So you can search some apps. Yun nga, yung Mendeley, sabi ni Sir Alvin kanina, no? You can use that for reference listing or reference list entries. Okay, EasyBib for the G Suite users there. Okay, some other parts, you have keywords. In one of my articles, these are the keywords. Ano ba ang purpose ng keywords? These are words very easily thought of by researchers but are connected to your or related to your current study or manuscript. The purpose of this is they are the ones which are indexed. So, ibig sabihin, pag researcher, kunwari si Ma'am Becky, and then ang gusto niya ay about Filipino learners, niya mag-research about Filipino learners. If she keys in Filipino learners in Google, one of the Google results will be my paper. Okay? So, kailangan ang isipin ninyo, madaling isipin ng mga researchers. Okay? Yeah. And acknowledgement has to be very, very short and very formal. Yeah. So, this is one example of acknowledgement section. Okay? The cover letter is so important because this is how you would want the editor to look at your paper, make pansin of your paper. Editors of good journals usually accepts or receives thousands of papers. So para mabasa yung papel mo would be a miracle. Kailangan napakaganda ng papel. So kailangan mag-communicate ka dun sa editor in a way na hindi niya mahihindian yung iyong papel para basahin. Okay? These are the parts I usually use, usually include in my cover letter. And nababasa naman nila and they try to take a look at the paper. Okay? Your intention to submit, okay, of the to the chosen journal. What are your major findings? This is very important. What is the contribution of your manuscript to the journal itself and your conflict of interest? Okay. Now, let me share with you the publication process. So what we had discussed is all about writing. And after the writing of the manuscript, you submit the manuscript. O, paano ang galawan kapag publication na, di ba? Pagka-submit mo, anong mangyayari? Okay, so here, these two images are basically the same. This is the author. You are the author. Okay, you submit your manuscript, and the one who encounters or receives the submission is the editor. So the editor has two choices. It's a yes or a no, di ba? Okay. If the editor checks the paper, initial review yon kapag sa journal namin. And it conforms to all the technical specifications and all others, then that's a yes. Your paper will be assigned to peer reviewers. Okay. And then the peer reviewers would review your paper, the reviewing all the reviews of the reviewers, including his or her own review. Okay. The purpose of peer reviewers is to help the editor decide whether your paper is acceptable in the journal. Okay. Ngayon, kung hindi naman kaaya-aya ang inyong sinubmit, hindi nakasunod sa lahat ng mga patakaran ng journal, it's a no, it's a reject. Okay. So, yan, ganyan ang mangyayari. And then, kung kunwari naman, major revision, ibabalik sa inyo yon, you have to revise, and then the cycle is repeated. Okay? There. But the repetition of the cycle does not include the reviewers. So dito, umiikot na lang siya sa reviewer, sa editor, author, hanggang ma-publish. Yeah. So yun ang ginagawa ng isang editor sa isang papel. So kung kunwari, ang tinatanggap ng journal ay daang-daang papel, so daang-daang ganito ang nangyayari. Okay? So that's the publication process. Now, these are some traits for you to take a look at and bear in mind, when you are trying to write your articles. Editors would look for thematic relevance. Kaya nga sabi ko kanina, you have to be mindful of the focus of the journal and has to be related to the focus and scope of your manuscript. Okay? Significant contribution. Ano ba ang mapapala ng journal dyan sa inyong manuscript? So that's the basic question. Okay? Is it original? O kaya napakarami nang nagsulat tungkol dyan? Okay? Use of literature, and did you follow the format and style of our journal as per author guidelines? If not, it's an outright rejection. Okay? Reviewers, on the other hand, does have a different criteria. It takes a look at, or these people look for clarity and coherence, actually. Okay? Technical quality and organization. Appropriate title and abstract, use of data. Were you able to discuss and explain the data generated, sound conclusion and discussion, and length of paper. Some other attributes that may help you publish your paper, you have to be a reputable, an author with good reputation. So yung mga madalas nang mag-publish, madali din silang makapublish ulit. Okay? So if you are beginning authors, look for good friends who are already published. Friend, partner naman muna tayo ngayon. Pag nasa Google na ang pangalan ko, then pwede mo na akong iwan. Parang ganon. Contributions to theory and policy, and uniqueness and technicality of content. Okay? Some insights, the paper should have unity, coherence. All discussions and data should be supported. So it has to be clear. You provide illustrations, you provide ideas, explain them, and use examples. Write effective paragraphs. Paragraph 1 should not be replicated in paragraph 4, diba? Sayang yung space, okay? Word choice, ang uso ngayon, direct and simple statements, okay? Grammar length, grammar, and sentence length also mean a lot. When we say sentence length, wag naman yung napakahaba yung statement na kapag binasa mo orally, hindi hihinga yung nagbabasa, mahihimatay, di ba? Okay, so those are some insights. For other audiences, you can probably have policy briefs. Kung hindi pa ninyo siya magawang paper, a lengthy paper, 15 to 25 pages, you can have policy briefs. And your audience here are your local government, school managers, okay? So a policy brief is concise and it's short, but it has to be providing significant information already. So these are the different types, 2 types, advocacy brief and objective brief, okay? And these are the different parts. You have the title, executive summary. These are the things that you need to bear in mind when you write the executive summary. Context and importance of the problem, okay? Critique of policy option. So ano ba ang policy na gusto nyong palitan o i-enhance at gusto nyong gawin yan dahil according to your research ay ganito nga iyon. Ganon, no? And what are your recommendations in terms of policy and some other parts? Okay. Okay, so other parts of policy brief are as follows. You can have some samples from these websites, okay? And I can provide you with some samples also. We generated some policy briefs from our CHED-funded research titled TPAC in Philippines Team Education. And this is one of them, okay? You can have the samples from this website. Yeah, HTTP, blah, 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 okay? Yeah. And other ways and means, you can submit your papers to us in this format. We accept, we call this PNU SINAG, no? Showcasing interesting and notable academic genres. So if you have a published paper already, you can convert that to a video presentation, 3 to 5 minutes, or infographics, or short Facebook article, and then we can lodge your submission to our Facebook page. Okay, yeah, this is one example. There. This is another one. This is a podcast, ba? I mean, an infographics. Ang title ay Podcast in Physics. And this one is a video. Okay, so you can visit our Facebook page and check the samples. Okay. Okay, so some tips, more tips. Okay, you have to consult and attend other webinars, specifically on writing. What I have shared with you are snippets of tips. Okay, some other webinars would tell you something about how they mentor. Okay, or you can probably join mentoring sessions kasi mahirap magsulat, di ba? So you can have probably mentoring sessions. Our Facebook page also offers some posts that give advice on how to write. Okay, so you can check our Facebook page. You can send a message to me if you have questions. Okay, wag lang sobrang habang question. Okay. Some other insights. Do not fear rejection. In the publication world, rejection is normal. Okay, it's not new normal. It's the old normal. Be patient. Mapapublish din yan after 48 years. Be humble and learn to strategize. Yeah. How do I respond to this reviewer? Mga ganun, ano. Learn to strategize. Be optimistic. Matatapos nyo rin yan. And as I've mentioned a while ago, be simple in writing. Be mindful of the journal standards and try to collaborate. Our topic yesterday was on collaboration. And build your credibility as a researcher. Okay? Other tips. No pressure. You have to love what you do. Okay? If you want to publish, you have to love writing. Okay? Chill-chill lang. Walang pressure. Kasi pag pressured, mahirap magsulat eh, no? Hindi lumalabas yung creative juices kung tawagin ng mga kabataan ngayon, di ba? Do physical activities so that you will not be ouch like that, okay? No FB at the writing moment, please. Okay? Small steps lead to big goals. Ayan. For your insights, may I ask them again? Please share with them. Share with us pala. I'm going to copy the site and have it in our chat box. Okay, so you can share with us your insights. And I am going to share your insights as well. Okay, where is it? So I'm going to have my insight. Again, thank you for listening. I hope that you have learned some tips on how to write your manuscripts for publication. Okay. Any insights po? Kindly share your insights here. Okay. Wala po ba kayong insights? So while they are working on their insights, ayun, meron na. Well, some of you are working on your insights. I have to give back the virtual floor to Ma'am Rebecca. Thank you very much. Sabi ni Sir Alvin, patience is virtue. Okay. Okay, so I think I have to stop sharing. You can go on writing your insights.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Marie. If you are just entering the Zoom room now or just opening your Facebook page, we are live at Bicol University Extension official page and Bicol University page. You can type your questions in the chat box, or we can take a look at the comments of the viewers. Ma'am, most of our viewers are giving their thanks and appreciation for such an informative and engaging presentation. We once again thank you for sharing with us your knowledge and expertise on publication. Do we have some questions? May I take a look at the chat box? From Sir Hector, with your discussion, ma'am, research paper writing has become easy, manageable, and exciting. Yes, thank you to the tons of tips and insights for writing from Madam Marie. From Mylene, Madam Mylene, thank you very much for a very informative discussion. This will help me in my studies. I think Madam Epi, Dr. Epi Nunez, also a physics professor, Ma'am Marie from Bicol University. Thank you very much. I learned a lot. So coming from a seasoned professor also, learning from your talk is such heartwarming. Yes, thank you very much, Madam Epi, for joining us. There are still a number of comments. I'm going to read a few of these comments, Madam. Good morning, watching from Albay Central School. So we have viewers, ma'am, who are elementary school teachers. Perhaps I can just shoot one simple question for those willing to submit publication to the Normalites and the other journals of Philippine Normal University. May we know, ma'am, the call for papers, or is it open the entire year? How many issues or volumes do you have per year so that our researchers will be guided?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. I would like to share the website, so at least you can see what we have inside. So we have 3 journals, and this is open to everyone. Okay, this is our website. We have 3 journals here. There, the normal lights, the average, and the Aston. You can submit any time of the year, but we usually publish twice a year for normal lights and average. Normal lights is for education and teacher education. Average is multidisciplinary. Aston is for ASEAN teacher education and education as well. So you can submit in any of these 3 journals. This is the site for the normal lights. Okay. For all instructions that you need, you can visit the author guidelines. For your submission procedure, you can check our submission procedure here. For online submission, please check this part. Okay. You can check our archives and our current issue. This was loaded last December. So in the normal lights, we have 2 issues for 1 year, one in June and one in December. For Average, we have 2 issues, August and December as well. For Aston, we have 1 issue for the year, and that's in December. Okay, so these are some of the things that we have. These are our focus and scope, section policies, peer review process, publication ethics, and so on. Okay. And if you want the older versions or the older publications, you can go to archives. Okay. So again, you can submit any time of the year. Yeah. There. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Did I answer the question fully?
Yes, madam. Thank you for responding. I'm sure many of our participants will visit your website and probably refer to the articles in your journals. May we know whether these are open access journals?
Yes, ma'am. They are all open access. Even
So
if you don't register, you can download.
Okay, that's very interesting. So that would be another avenue for the researchers, whether they are faculty or they are graduate students or undergraduate students, you can visit the website. Just a follow-up question, ma'am. How much do you charge for the publication fee, if any?
We don't charge any publication fees, so that's free. We shoulder actually the fees for the domain hosting, the peer review process, and all expenses under publication process.
That's very good news for all our viewers. It's free. Yes. You can submit and probably resubmit when you receive the review. Take a look at the suggestions and then revise the paper and submit. It's free. So it's a good service to the country, to the ASEAN, and to the world. So since this is free, open access, anybody from any part of the world can visit the website and refer to the journal articles. So I think that's very useful to all our participants and viewers. May I take a look at some of the comments once again while waiting for some questions from our participants and viewers. Thank you, Dr. Morales, for the valuable tips you have shared on writing manuscript for publication. That's from Sir Sixto Orzales, also a faculty of Bicol University. Do we have some questions from those inside the Zoom room? So there are a number of wows for you, madam.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so if there are no questions, I think there are no questions because the discussion was simple, straightforward, and easily understandable. This is an information that is easy to consume, user-friendly, so to speak, okay? So we encourage all our dear participants, especially the presenters, to try out the publication available at the Philippine Normal University. And with that, we would like to once again express our gratitude to our resource person for this morning, Dr. Marie Paz E. Morales, Director, Publication Office, Philippine Normal University. On behalf of Bicol University, salamat po. Diyos mabalos. Best regards. We will once again give Madam Morales the certificate of commendation. May I ask the host to share on screen our certificate for our plenary speaker for this morning. Okay, the same certificate of commendation is awarded to Dr. Marie Paz E. Morales in recognition of her meritorious participation as plenary speaker on the topic journal publication, options and pointers for teacher researchers during the 6th Regional Conference on Promoting World-Class Education held on March 15 to 16, 2021 via Facebook live streaming. This is for you, Madam. We will be sending the hard copy to you with some Bicol tokens. Please wait for it. And we once again thank you for your valuable time. I know you are a very busy person. Thank you very much, and give our regards to your president and to Sir Mabunga, your vice president. Thank you.
Thank you po. Thank you po sa lahat.